This is the second ever Alumni Association meeting, annual meeting. There's plenty of meetings in between, but we don't have one. And just to tell you a little bit about what we'll do, welcome, like me. Committee reports will be slightly different than what if you were here last year, we went through every single committee. I'm just going to tell you, we just picked a handful of committees that we thought you should hear about today. Financial report from the financial reporter who's not here, I'm sure he'll be here. Program update, Sherry will tell us a little bit about what the program's been up to. And then a Q&A, so we can have a little back and forth for a few minutes about anything that comes up, any questions, suggestions, feedback. And then finally, we're going to hear from Don Glendenning, who is the inaugural member of the association's advisory council. So with that, welcome, guys. Right on time. Nice. Please feel free to, as this goes on, grab breakfast, coffee, whatever you need. I just wanted to point out two things to you guys in terms of welcome. From my perspective, having been president now for almost 2 years, a year and a half, a little bit over that. Two things. One, we're in the second year of the association's existence, okay? And there's a difference in the second year versus the first year, at least as I've noticed it, having my hands in a little bit of the work of every committee member. First year, brand new, lots of energy, very exciting, lots of ideas, everybody pushing in different directions, trying to say, pushing, pulling, you know, what can we do, what can we accomplish? A lot of stuff, a lot of energy there. Second year, slightly different, realizing, okay, we have some projects we started, now we gotta keep them going, now we gotta get them off the ground, now we really gotta accomplish this. And realizing that, as with everything, we have limited resources, in particular limited time. We're only as good as the time that each of us can really dedicate to this, and everybody here is extremely busy, people. Everybody has different things going on, limited time, limited money, and that means priorities, which brings up an important question. What is really at the core of what we need to accomplish, right? What is it that, given everybody's got awesome ideas, there's so many things we could do, but what really is at the core? What should we be focusing on? What is, in a sense, our core mission? I'll tell you, the bylaws have it. I mean, this has been a discussion for a long time. And it emphasizes three things. Improve the quality of student experience by mentoring, participating in the selection of incoming classes, to provide community and direction to the program from the alumni perspective, and then, of course, to contribute with the Alumni Association of the university to the UTD as a whole, to its development and growth. But what does that really mean, right? Again, this makes a lot of sense, good goals, but what does that mean in practice? And in practice, with limited time, limited resources, what do we focus on? How do we prioritize? And the reason I bring this up is because this has to be an ongoing conversation. It's not going to be a president or a committee leader or a board member or a single alumni that's going to define where we should be focusing on, saying this is what we're about, this is what we're here to do. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, an organic process, and it's only going to happen if we keep discussing it. And if you participate, everybody, in the board activities and the executive committee and the social gatherings, and give each other your feedback about this is what the association should be doing. And I think over time that will develop. But we're very young, 2 years old, not even that. But this is an important discussion that I hope you guys keep in mind and have as we move forward. And that leads me to that second point. If there is one thing that has been very consistent in terms of this is what we absolutely must do as an alumni association, one thing that I think I've heard everybody agree on, that it's been a part of numerous conversations over the first year and a half of the association's existence, is networking. And how important that is, and how much of our power will come from that, or our influence will come from that, as it helps each other individually, as individual people, and also collectively. And that's why Don is here, to give us a few thoughts on that. So with that, I'll move on to the next part. Like I said, as you have questions, comments, everything else, we'll push it towards a little bit at the end. But I just wanted to give you that perspective. This is my last annual meeting, my second and last as president. It's been a humbling experience serving in this capacity. But and what I've just told you is what I've seen looking at what everybody's doing, and what I think is a discussion that's really important, that we have to continue defining ourselves as an association of what are we really going to accomplish, what can we accomplish. With that, committee reports. Like I said, there's 11 committees in the association. You're only going to hear about the work of 4 today. not because the rest are not important or there's nothing going on, but because we thought for different reasons these were particularly important for alumni not involved in the board to hear about today. And the first one is, if Mac is here, yes, yep, is recruitment, which has had, which Mac led for the first time an effort this year about alumni selection specifically. So Mac.
Perfect. So I'll just give a very quick update from the Recruitment and Selection Committee. First of all, the big thing that we did this year is adopted and implemented our process for selecting our representative for the Selection Committee. So thank you, Jonathan, for this year. And another big program we had was sending our alumni to, once we've selected the scholars, sending our alumni to their high schools for their, what do we call them? Awards ceremony, that's what they're called. And which is really great and has been very successful. The unsuccessful thing that we did, or with mixed success, was recruitment. We started too late this year, and it was very difficult to reach out to schools, and not very many alumni participated. So this is one thing that we really have to prioritize going forward. So I would really appreciate your input, maybe via email, for how we can improve that process.
But on that note, we had more qualified applicants this year than in any previous year. So a lot of the stuff that Cherry and their group's been doing has been getting the word out.
Absolutely.
Through Counselor's Day and things like that.
Yeah. So
but we can do a lot more to really get better and better students come. Well, can't get much better than what we might have here.
Right.
But you get more good
even
students,
more of them.
More
good
ones
students
to come.
Wow.
The numbers will soon disagree with that.
Touche. All right.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mac.
Mentoring. Lilia Gowan has been mentoring chair. She couldn't be here this morning, and she wanted you guys to know the mentoring program has been reevaluated this past year. The first part of the year was spent thinking of, has it worked? Did it work? What have been the challenges? What should we do in the future? With a lot of input from Sherry, with help from Mac as well, there was it was a new focus was put on it. We started with a survey out to the juniors to give us their feedback on what the mentoring relationship has been like, and there was very mixed results. I was looking at some of those answers this morning just to remind myself. One of them was like, I had a mentor. Versus others who were, it was great, had a great experience. So, reevaluating that process, there was some feedback that the matchup sometimes didn't work quite as well. That's a tough process. You end up people with very different interests. So what was decided in terms of going forward was to create an opt-in system for the scholars that really want to mentor, that are really that are looking to have a connection to an alumni. They opt into the system. They decide if they want to participate. We, search we asked all alumni to participate. We had a great response this year from the alumni, so much so that we couldn't match every alumni with a scholar because we have fewer scholars participating. And then, again, I think Sherry, with some help from the office, so from Mac, actually paired people up in terms of their best guess of what will work. I don't know what we'll ever do if you're not here, but Sherry knows this better than anyone, and I think those pairings have worked. That's happening. That just came together as of a couple months ago, I think, a few weeks. So we're trying that out, seeing how it works, and then we'll evaluate that process at the end to see again, if is it an improvement? Have we done something better? Grants. Aiden couldn't be here as well. Aiden led this up for the last year. You guys might remember we talked about this last year. What we now call the Victor Worsfold Grant Program in honor of Dr. Worsfold. The grant program uses money that the association has raised to give to special projects by any UTD student, not just scholars, but any UTD student across the university. Special research, conferences, travel, whatever it may be. And what I did want to tell you about this year is that we issued the first grant not too long after our first meeting last year to the 09 class, the seniors, for their class gift. And we actually matched their contributions. The total raised was, I think, about $1,700. Half was the association, half was the class. And they used it for their class gift, which I believe was an environmental teaching program through photography for Dallas students.
Dallas Audubon.
The Dallas Audubon Society, right. And they bought cameras for all the students to use, digital cameras, and that then they donate it to the program so they can keep it going in the future. And there's if you go to our website, there's actually a link, a description of everything that was done, and a link to the pictures that were taken. Some of them are really beautiful. You should really take a look. And that was the first ever grant. What's happening now is that we are trying to make an arrangement with the university where the money that we donate as an association is considered part of our financial commitment to the university of 100 grand. What does that mean? That means that it's just mostly logistics. It's having a committee that's in part UTD people, faculty, and in part alumni, to then decide where the funds are going to go, and then it can get counted to meet our target of contributions to the university. So that's what's happening with grants. And then finally,
how many people have actually applied for grants?
We have, I don't know specifically, but I think it was just that one class, because we opened it up to say, or Aiden did, to say, all right, we're accepting applications, and that was the first one. And I think for subsequent, we said, give us a second, we need to get the committee in place. I believe that's right. And then finally, in terms of committees, development, Benedict.
Sure. So
you can,
all of this is dependent on cash flows. So we had, you remember the first year we sort of had the big push of 100% drive. We had about 90+% of scholars that had pledged that they would give back. We were not obviously quite at that level when put your money to the mouth, but we're making good progress. So I imagine most of the people here are sort of preaching to the choir. But we'll look through a couple of statistics. The main point here, as Andres mentioned, we have the $100,000 commitment to the university. Margaret had given us a chunk that thankfully has sort of gotten us going. But we do need to be raising at least $10,000 a year strictly for that. And if you add on top of grants, we do a lot of outreach with the current scholars. Any kinds of activities that maybe mentoring does or recruitment does, if we're sending people to do one-off items. We'll do that. So the way that we did this was the cup, the McDermott Scholars Cup. For those of you who are unable to decipher why there was an S in front of dollars, if you have a lisp and mispronounce it, it makes a lot more sense. So the McDermott Scholars Cup is very, very impressive. And so let's look at the results. So if you remember, this was obviously a way to have the classes compete against each other. And we didn't want to do it strictly from a monetary perspective. Obviously, the older classes would always have, at least at this point, a huge advantage. So the way we did it was have that be part of it, but then there were also percentage awards for the percentage of your class that gave back, how many of those were willing to sign up for recurring payments. So obviously, from the association perspective, we would love it if you have automatic withdrawals and we don't have to pester you every year. If you got outside commitments, so we had a few parents, and Chang, who's not here, but gets a special recognition. He was able to bring in $1,000 from a matching from his company, which was fantastic. So those are the kinds of things we're also looking for, is to get people more involved. So that said, how that all worked, I promise it's not biased. It's just just as a proud representative of the best class, it just happens to be that way. So you can see here how it worked out. And again, this was a ranked system. The way that it's working right now, and I'll get to this in a second, is how we're allocating the points. And I think we as a committee and the board will change it a little bit to make more sense next year. It won't change the results at all. No, like it doesn't. Yeah, you'll see. I put all these orange and green graphs to your heart's content. So that's how it works. And the way then it broke down was looking at different ways. For those that can't see in the back, the orange is the percentage of the class that was contributing. The green bar is the number of people that were recurring, so they signed up for automatic payments. And then here the outside commitments, so the blue bar. So you can see there were a couple classes that really had great participation. Those are the only ones above 50%. So again, if we had the 90% sort of commitment rate that we got a year ago, so ideally you'd have 90% everywhere, but we expect at least sort of 50% across the board. And so a little bit was outreach problems. We started probably too late. Class representatives were maybe not well informed enough. And everybody's busy, and we need to reach out. But I think if we get started a little bit earlier and we really start pushing that, that can go really well. Yes?
Has there been any progress along the way for us to go and check what we've
done? I know there's been some confusion in the past.
You as an individual or us
Me
as the
an
board?
individual go and say, have I contributed this year?
I mean, I don't know that you could log in anywhere. You can certainly reach out to us and we can look that up for you.
Okay, and do people know who to reach out to?
Probably not if you're asking that question.
Well,
Yes, we should make that more clear. You can always reach out to Andres or myself.
We've had the McDermott Alumni at Gmail account that serves for any and all purposes. That is regularly checked by multiple people for any kind of question development or otherwise.
But yes, that's a great point. Again, this is small to read. I've ordered the classes of sort of how they were contributing, the percentage-wise, the top three, 2004, 2002, 2001, and the percentage of give back from the actual dollars contributed. 2002 class had the most money, then the 01s, and then the 04s. We had about almost $11,000 come in, and that was either straight donations or pledged donations. So we didn't necessarily get the full $10,000 because some of that is pledged over this year from the recurring donations. And again, remember, we need to be at least at the $10,000 mark to just match our obligations. So, we can't even do anything besides that. We can't save any. We're trying to at least put some amount to grow the endowment in the fund. If we look at then by the dollars, again, 2002 class brought it in, so it's just a graphical way of keeping up with that. And then probably the way that we'll go forward, right now, if you remember back from slide 1, it was a very sort of stair step. So if you raised the most dollars, you got the top score. If you raised the second most dollars, it was out of 30 points and you got 29 points. So it didn't matter, if you were up here and you raised $3,000, you got 30 points. And then if the next class was at $50, you'd get 29. So what we're probably going to do is do it a little bit more weighted so that you actually get credit for having raised 10 times as much money as some other class. So I went through and did the numbers there, and it really doesn't, the order doesn't change at all. It does, put into perspective a little bit more of sort of the commitment that we've gotten from some of the different places. So that'll be, nothing the board needs to talk to or we need to discuss today, but just an impact of how that will be going forward. So the real focus is obviously from the perspective of alumni is to get contributions. But there's really a lot of effort that we can do to expand beyond that. There are a lot of parents that I think if we have better communication and better outreach would be willing to at least give some amount back. Zach is in 04, he's not here, but he was able to raise his dad made a donation, a sizable chunk from him, and that was really great. And I think we can continue that, especially for a lot of the parents that are that are here volunteering, that were here last night. I mean, they're really involved in the program, and as they become parents of alumni, I think we can continue to draw on that. And then finally, the matching program. So once a lot more of us get jobs, hopefully that's something from the employer side that we can really match. So I can't speak to that obviously, but for you that have jobs, we expect more from you. So any questions about development goals, what we've gotten this year?
Where do we stand with our commitment?
So we've already paid off last year. It's a $20,000 a year, and that's at the end of each. I think we're doing calendar year, right? Not fiscal year. So we have a little bit more time in that sense. The fiscal year ends in September. So we've done that. In the bank right now, we should have about
We're covered for this year.
Yeah, I think we're
about
slightly
$30,000 in the bank account or so, maybe a little less. I wrote a check to Aaron Conley right at the end of the year, so it was cleared in December. So usually the last couple days of the year, we'll take him a check from the account. And so that meets sort of our commitment to get to $100,000 over 5 years.
And again, most of that is from the initial input from Mrs. McDermott. So, it sounds great, but we're quickly chipping away at that. So, we are set for this year, but we'll need to be sort of building up because after next year, there's no cushion. It's all on us. So, yeah, great point. Any other questions in that regard?
How much did we raise from the cup this year again?
The total from either straight donations or pledged over the course of the year was $10,700. So that keeps up with the sort of $10,000 that we need. But again, we gave whatever that was, roughly $850 for a grant. We've paid for a lot of activity related things. So right there alone, we're under $10,000 already. So we wouldn't be able to meet obligations strictly.
Do you have a
with that.
ballpark of what % of that is recurring to have an idea of what we definitely would get next year?
I would love to be able to tell you that. Our recurring is only about 12%. So dollar-wise, that is actually a fair amount. It's almost $4,000. So that is a pretty good amount, and considering then that we got roughly, I think, what is that, about $3,000 from parents and outside firms. So that alone is pretty good that we've been able to draw that in. But obviously, the recurring stuff is much more easing to know that we have sort of a steady cash flow.
But right up front here, the absolute amounts aren't nearly as important as the system and the logistics of getting it set up correctly so that it's easy to do in the future, easy to administer. So the first couple of years are working out the kinks, getting it so this is easy. It's a nice process. So I think that communication that someone there brought up is really important. On the website, we can maybe look to integrate with UT Dallas because they track things. There are websites you can log into to see what you've contributed. Maybe we can get a slot there that's, how much has been given to the McDermott program or something.
And that's one other point too, where there have been questions of, we need to do a better job with the outreach there, because I know sometimes the university will send you letters and say, please donate, and you've done it through the McDermott program. So we're working to make sure, I think we're talking to Aaron, and maybe every 6 months, we'll just give him a status update and say these people have contributed this amount, so that you can go ahead and include that in your percentage rankings, just as the university as a whole, because obviously we get sort of tallied on the percentage of alumni that give back.
In some of the reports, some of the student names that contributed here were not included as having contributed to the university.
Okay.
But I thought that was the arrangement with Aaron Conley, that they would consider all of those contributions. So we need to make sure.
Then we just need to update them on those, with that
Yeah,
information.
and maybe retroactively also.
So maybe in December when we send that then to Aaron, we should include a list of all the names of who made that. We did not do that this year.
So we can
maybe
even do
that's
that
something
now.
we get together.
Yeah.
Maybe do that now, but then just year after year, that's just part of the process.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any other quick things? Okay, well, you know where to find me, so we'll wrap up here.
Thanks, Benedict. We'll hear next from our favorite person, not the financial report. We're switching the order from Sherry on the program.
Well, and I have to get back to finalist weekend duties, so do you mind if I sit? Is that okay?
Or no.
Okay. I have to be on my feet a lot today. Wow, y'all are my favorite part of the weekend. I love welcoming the new ones, but it is so heartwarming to know that you take your time and your energy and your love and you bring it back and spend a weekend with us. Thank you. We've had a lot of staff changes in the last 2 years, and I just want to give everyone an update on who's in the office, and if you pick up the phone and call us, if you don't call me directly, who are you going to get? So Molly's in her 7th year of picking scholars. She is now equal to the time that Charlie was here picking scholars, which is really hard to believe, in fact, that I am now picking my 14th class of scholars. I'm focusing more on study abroad and the finances and working more one-on-one with students, as we now have 3 program coordinators in the office, which really takes the load off of my shoulders and let the logistics happen with them that I did for so many years, and I can focus more on special provost projects, or what does Molly need to crunch some data. So the 3 program coordinators now are Kim, who's the most senior. Kim is Kim Flicker. She was Kim Kentfield when she came here. She married Blair Flicker, who works in the provost office. So as you can see, it's very connected. They just had a little girl, Dorothy. They call her Dottie, and she is 5 months old. So Kim has a new family to take care of, but it is fun that they're both Kim and Blair are on campus, and both are great mentors to the scholars. Blair is working on his PhD here at the university. Dottie got in the way of Kim taking on her PhD, but she's going to get back in the swing of it hopefully in the fall. Eric is our next senior PC program coordinator, and Eric Fackler arrived in our office the day that my Brady was born. So that day, 2 men came into my life, 2 new men. So it's wonderful. When we had Coulter move on to work with his wife Kelly in the family business, it was nice to have the male figure in the office. Eric's wife, Petra, works for Neiman Marcus and is one of the department managers, and they're at North Park, and so she hosts the scholars for Dress for Success on both the male and female side and gets everyone in Neiman Marcus connected. So, again, we network. Diana is our most recent add to the program coordinator's position. She was student body president here at the university, I believe, in 2011, and graduated. She worked with Dr. Jameson's office, the business admin office that takes care of the grounds and all business affairs here at the university. We were lucky enough to get her over to our side. She wanted to have some interaction with students, so she got it. I think it's sometimes a little overwhelming. Maybe it's back to the student government days that now she remembers so fondly. We continue to have our dear Rena in the office. Having that Moorhead connection is always a good thing. Rena does anything, everything. Y'all know this. She focuses still a lot on internships, business connections, looking at resumes, helping people with personal statements. She's just the all-around go-to person. And then our newest addition is Nicole. And Nicole is a traveling spouse in the fact that we hired her husband in EPS. So once again, all very connected within the university. So the provost likes to smile and snicker when he says, well, you know, we had to hire him to get you. So Nicole is a burst of energy, and pick up the phone and you can just feel her smile through the phone. So if you take a moment, that was who was screaming my name down the hall. She's easily embarrassed, but she's a go after it person, and really someone we need in the program. So great person to be the welcoming face and the smile on the phone. I want to thank everyone who came to Victor and Ginny's memorial this year. It was a really loss to lose those two people this year. Sorry. Two very special people to this program. And every time we saw Ginny, she was your love. You were her love, sorry. So, thank you. Picking new kids, new life, right? You know, circle of life. Let's get the next class in. Qualifications have not changed much this year. We're still looking at that 1,400 or 2,100, 32, top 5%. But really, if you're going to get to the nitty-gritty, you better have a 1,450 if you think you have a chance. Right, Michael? Walter? The selection committee had a really tough time this year going, oh, well, he only has a 1410. So we just have to keep out there and convincing everyone who is in those top tier scores to really believe in us, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of it, so thank you all for helping out. Program overview, I just wanted to run through. Not much has changed since 2001, and you can go out and comfortably say the program that you had is really the nuts and bolts of what the program is today. We continue to do the pre-freshman option. They live in the dorms. We have McDermott Scholars who are now their PAs, which is great to have someone looking at, you know, it's no longer the apartments. We need leadership within the dorms, and so it's very cool to have McDermott Scholars be the PA for incoming McDermott Scholars. They live in 3-room suites in the dorms. If you haven't had a chance to see the res hall, y'all are on campus a little while, it'd be really neat for y'all to run over there and see it. It's really impressive. It's not the dorm, or it's not the apartments that you moved into, but you know, for dorms, they're pretty swanky. The dryers text you when your clothes are dry. We still go to Santa Fe. They still get $1,200 a month. They still get a $1,000 annual book stipend. We still do Leadership Dallas, and it is on steroids. I mean, it is. The connections within Dallas has really helped the scholars be involved and get to know people and build themselves relationships with these organizations that then they find themselves in turning in future summers. We don't do the winter trip anymore. Most of y'all know that, but the cost of the dorms rising basically was equivalent to what we spent on the winter trip. So by the time we cover meal plans and res hall costs, that absorbs those expenditures. We do Austin every other year as well, and the DC trip to be the bookend trip for the freshman year. The volunteer and campus involvement are still a key role in the program. Study abroad is still 12. Post-program prep is still 3. Art and culture is, of course, at the top of our list. The O'Donnell family also provides their tickets, their box seat tickets, when they are unable to attend. They invite the scholars to go. So it's another family that we are getting to know and spend quality time with and share Mrs. McDermott's scholars with other Dallas families, and it's truly a wonderful addition to the program. We no longer manage the Thompson Fund. For all the years we managed the Thompson Fund. Honors College now does that, and they have access to a lot more students and are placed better on campus, and it seems to be successful. This is the first year without that in our office. And time away is still 2 long semesters in the summer. They have weaseled us on Archer. Well, Archer's really a UTD thing, and so if they do an Archer, we might give them an extra summer away. So, but doesn't happen often, but it has been discussed. A couple of brags. We have 60 plus countries, 60 plus archers, 10 Goldwaters, which includes winners and honorable mentions, 2 Borens, 4 Fulbrights in various versions, 3 National Science Foundation Fellowship, Research Fellowships, 5 Critical Language Scholarships, 1 won by a freshman this year to China. So very cool to have a freshman win the CLS. 3 UDALs, Phi Kappa Phi National and Campus Awards 6, 3 Green Fellowships, 57 Phi Kappa Phi inductees. We're still about 40% going off to professional school, about 50 going off to graduate school, and then the remaining 15 or so going into the workforce. Recruitment. We thank you. We appreciate for the recruitment efforts. We have now hit the gold mine of getting a hold of a national merit list, and we have a list of 52,000 names. And we badgered this year with about 5 different touches. So you think about 250,000 touches of recruitment via email, via postcard, letter to parent. So that brought in our 519 applications this year. We had nearly 1,600 started. I am very happy they did not all submit. The 519 was whittled down to 60. We unfortunately had a last-minute withdraw on Thursday, so we actually do have 59 here at the finalist weekend. And for all sanity and stress-related purposes, we did not fill that spot after much hand-wringing, but decided it was best just to move forward. The selection committee this year has grown by 2 members. 2 alums were added per the provost, and so the committee now is Mrs. Seligson, Dr. Harpham, Rena, Roth. Rena's on here twice. She probably should be on there twice. Michael, Carrie, Walter, and of course Jonathan as our alum rep. Carrie West and Michael Seligson were added this year. They are employees of the university, and it only makes sense to use the talents wisely. And it's easy for them to come over to a meeting in our office. They're here. It's been a great addition having 8 people at this point, and now 9 with Jonathan. It makes the selection a lot easier, especially when you start off with the end of 519. Thank you to those who read. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your responses, your comments, your evaluations, your rankings dovetailed right into what we said. You know, if 3 alums gave them 5s, only 1 selection committee member probably read it, because now we've already had 4 people say 5s, and that's a strong yes for that scholar, for that finalist. So you helped cut down our reading. You brought your input, your insight, your love, your passion, and that made the selection process a lot easier. Of the 59 that are here, they have an average SAT of 1552. I think there's about 20 perfect scores in our list. Let's see, 35 from Texas, 25 from out of state, and 32 national merit semifinalists within the 59. Class rank is 1.99. We have had 242 offered and brought into the McDermott program in the history of the program in the 13 years. We've had some attrition, but not enough to be too concerned about. You know, a lot of the times it's personal issues, health issues. Grades aren't usually issued. You know, someone wants to be an interior design. UTD can't do that for them, and so they move on to a different university. We have 142 alums out in the world, and we have 82 currently in the program. 32 are out of state for the program history, and this past class was actually 44. So I think we are reaching further and further beyond the Texas border. Last piece, our website is an ongoing project. That is Rena's project to tackle. She has been tackling it for 3 years. University bureaucracy does not allow us to move forward as easily as we would like, but be patient. Thank you for your input. We're trying to keep it up to date. It is just a beast when it comes to the bureaucracy. Keep the updates coming to us all year long. Send it to Rena, send it to Sherry. We will tuck it away. We'll update it when we can. We'll update the Where Are They Now, which is the very cool spreadsheet. If you go to your alumni page and you click on it, it's a PDF of where you all are now or where you've been. And if there's a mistake, let us know. We can fix it. We're going to start doing annual updates in April, where we only ask you once a year for your updates. What have you done in the last academic year? Why April? We report to the McDermott Foundation, and we go from June to May. So it captures when can a scholar enter the program? They can enter on June 1st. So that is how we run our calendar year. So we'll ask you in April what you did the summer before, the fall, and that current spring. So it can be a couple of things, but we just like to have an idea, and we'll do those major updates in April. So expect to see a Qualtrics or an email from me. And please send in updated headshots. You will see some very old pictures in the slideshow at lunch today. We apologize. It's what we had. If you'd like to have a new updated headshot, please send one to Rena or to Sherry. We'd be happy to update.
Does it have to be professional?
Professional is relative. However, it does not have to be a professional headshot. A nice headshot taken with a home camera is perfectly fine.
I mean, like professional face.
No tongue sticking out or.
That's what.
Okay, I must move on.
Could you be holding your baby?
Thank you for all that you do and to continue to enrich my life as I continue down this path. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
Thank you so much, Sherry.
Welcome.
Next up, from David, we have a treasury department within the association. We have a treasurer. David has been kind enough to handle, trust me, it's a lot less than you think. David's been kind enough to handle preparing financial statements and kind of, being able to update the board and you guys today in terms of where things stand in terms of the bank account and, more or less the budget.
So we've actually already gone over a lot of the details that I was planning to give this morning, so I really don't have too much to say. I will say that right now in our Bank of America account for the Alumni Association, we have just over $13,000. That doesn't include several $1,000s that we have from contributions for the McDermott Scholars Cup. It's in a PayPal account. I don't have any access to that or insight into it, so I can't really speak to it. But if someone else here does,
yeah, Aiden does. So.
And I've seen it as well. It's just the money sitting there just has to be transferred into the account.
So that's where we're at. We do have for the remainder of the year, let's say all the charges from last night, which we hope aren't too steep. We also have a $20,000 commitment to the university that's supposed to clear at the end of the year. And beyond that, we have other incidental expenses, but nothing too major. So That's all I got.
Yeah, thank you, David. We're covered for this year. The year after that, we'll have to pick up fundraising efforts. And part of what I'd like to do as we move forward and as I no longer president is focus on a couple of key things. One of those is going to be, I think, almost exclusively development. Q&A, very briefly. You guys, any comments, feedback, questions, complaints, suggestions?
Who's the president moving forward? How is that being determined?
The election of the next president, you mean? So, and in May, I believe the timelines and the bylaws, and forgive me, I'm a little hazy on the actual dates, but I think in May there's going to be a new board election. Some board members have, and possibly all have, 2-year terms right now. So that's when the elections are scheduled, and then the board elects the next president within nominations and just voting within the board.
By June 30th.
June 30th.
So something to think about is to have a president and a president-elect, and so it's rotating 2-year terms, and that way there's always consistency, and the president's got a year to sort of plan for what they want to do. And a lot of organizations that I've been a part of, that model works really well. So maybe we should consider electing a president and a president-elect this year, and then every year we elect a president-elect that sort of fills in. And then, or every year we elect the new president-elect, and then they become the presidents that next year.
That's a good idea.
And we could do that, first vice president, second vice president in waiting. We could have 3 people in waiting, so it would be a 3-year commitment. We could do a 2-year commitment. But that's probably going to help consistency a lot.
And it'll also help, I think, who the core group is that oversees everything that's going on. Because I can tell you, again, from one person having hands in 11 different committees and keeping it all in the air, it's not easy. So I think that's a good reason. That's a good idea for that reason as well.
Do people think we should have 3 people or 2 people sort of in that?
I think 2.
Yeah.
I think the more you add, the harder it's gonna be to find people who want to fill those positions.
That would be something the board needs to vote on anyway.
By the way, before I forget, I don't want to overlook what everyone else has done in terms of the committees. I was just sitting here thinking, Prashant organized last night's event and has organized social events numerous times of the year. Dean has been interacting with the university, making sure we kept updated with the university and the associations going on. Aiden has been tireless in his efforts to keep the website updated, and he's pleaded with me for everybody to take pictures and send them to him so that he can upload it to the university. And he's the guy that also sends out the emails to the alumni, and he's always very much on the ball on that. Lily, of course, has been very hardworking in mentoring. Liz Organ has kept us in touch with the recent graduates. Katie's been making sure that we interview some of the key people of the program's history, so that we keep that for posterity in terms of where the program comes from. And I'm sure I'm leaving Austin, has been having conversations about kind of where should the more general big picture discussions of whether should the program be headed and what should be our advice to the program as to its future and its focus. So again, I don't want to overlook anybody. Walters helped us treasurer. A lot of people are working very hard, and you did not hear about all of it today. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Anything else, guys?
I have a piece of feedback. As someone who hasn't been involved for several years, I think I've been thinking about what keeps me from being more involved and what's communicated to me, and I think things could be sexier. And what I mean by that, yeah, make it sexier.
We'll send more pictures
well,
of ourselves.
all of us, I'm just saying fewer communication with Benedict would help. No, I think, so we're all parts of tons of different associations, grad schools, the Archer program, and all the other groups that I'm a part of have beautiful graphics, more streamlined form of communicating. And what I get from McDermott Alumni Association is typically an email, like just a normal email that I like put a star on it because I'm running to some other meeting, and then I like forget to go back to it later, and it's not very fun to read. And maybe that seems like an obvious statement, and maybe I'm being shallow, but I do think advertising works, marketing works. And the people who are in this room right now are mostly people who have been always involved and are, really interested in staying involved. But I think we can do a better job of reaching out to those who have kind of fallen off the face. If there are 141 of us out there, we need to act like a really big organization. It's a really big, diverse group of people. And so I think, I don't know where this would come from, if we need to have somebody who's sort of advertising chair, sexy captain or something. But
Aiden.
Aiden is
Doesn't the
probably,
picture of sexy come up when
Yeah.
you think of Aiden?
I don't know. I don't have any experience in the field of marketing either, but that's just something I noticed, that it could be prettier.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that's fair. That's a good point. And it has been discussed, in particular the emails. What is it that we send? We tried to be cautious, not to send too much. And then we played around with formatting, but it also comes into who has the requisite expertise to do some of this stuff. But yes, it is something we need to do.
I mean, I think it's so essential that if we don't have that expertise within the McDermott alums, or there isn't someone willing to do it, that we need to hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Different topic, but as the Alumni Association grows, we are going to outgrow finalist weekend as an appropriate time to hold these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we've really cast a wide net, saying any alumni that want to be involved in finalist weekend, please come back and do so. But when we're 300 alums, if we have even 20% participation, which is sort of where we've been, I think we don't want to be a distraction from the real business of the weekend. We play a pivotal role in recruiting the next generation, but we need to make sure that, right now this meeting this morning has been a great place to do Alumni Association business and keep people updated. But sort of like Rachel's saying, these are the people that are already involved. We've talked about at different times having a different alumni weekend, and that hasn't been as successful because people say, well, if I'm coming back to Dallas, I'm coming back for a finalist weekend. But as we grow, we may need to revisit some of those conversations and evolve, or find a way to make this weekend successful on both fronts without sacrificing the core finalist weekend mission.
Yeah.
Does UTD have an alumni weekend?
We have homecoming in November.
Okay.
Just homecoming?
In the fall.
Okay.
And we've tried to do that in the past, and it has not been successful.
Our turnout's been pretty slow.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but that's something to think about. And I think as the organization grows too, and resources change and everything, there probably will come a point where this will be an event in and of itself. And I think that's our goal. Unless there's something pressing and we can discuss it afterwards, I'd like to introduce Don to you guys. Don, as I've mentioned, is many, many things. I'm just going to put him up because I can spend a long time telling you about everything he does. Numerous awards, participates in numerous organizations. But I wonder if you'll agree with me, perhaps the most important is his relationship with Mrs. McDermott. And of course, the role as the inaugural member of our advisory council. Late last year, we had a dinner, a handful of us, with Don, and the discussion that came up there about networking really led to him being here today. So Don, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You had a great meeting. I am incredibly excited about what you're doing. Congratulations. This is absolutely the right sort of thing for the McDermott program to evolve to. And it's also very enjoyable. Truly. But if you had to have named Dollar Cup, right? Yes, okay. That is a.
If I say no, you won't believe me.
I wouldn't. I encourage all of you, if it ever comes up, to say Benedict. He will actually be flattered, and you'll be,
relieved of the burden.
And I also just have to say, I'm guessing you had a hand in that matrix for what balances.
I explicitly said somebody else needs to check.
Well, this is okay. Honestly, that was one of the most wonderfully wonky, endearingly nerdy things I have ever heard. So, congratulations on maintaining this wonderful McDermott quality to the UTD aspect. I really think it's hard for most very intelligent people who haven't lived it to really accept how important networking can be and just how broad the concept of networking and relationships can be. Probably for a few of you, I've mentioned this particular data point before, but what I still think of as a recent, and this was before the internet, and candidly I guess the study was done before any of you were born, but 3M. And I think this is, I like this example. I like it for law firms, I like it for hospitals, medical schools, I like it for you. Because there's a pre-selected group of folks who are within a pretty narrow band of incredibly educated and very successful through their academic career. The 3M decided, well, right before you all were born, to do a study to try to figure out what it was that actually made for innovation within the company. There was a very broad disparity. I mean, their guidelines for who they hired and the engineering professional staffs were, for most companies at that time, particularly in the country, very narrow. They expected absolute academic excellence. They, went to all the best schools. They were, this is, if you know 3Mers in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, these are very upscale, well-compensated positions, and they would look and see, this person, this woman, their product, what they actually are adding in value to the company is wildly disproportionate to what the average is doing. And what could that discerning factor be? Brought an outside team, did an exhaustive study, and they didn't find what they thought they would find. There was no correlation to IQ. Now, these are all pretty high IQs. There's still a significant bandwidth there. No correlation with actual academic record. SAT, again, this is a fairly narrow band, but no correlation between the sort of remarkable results and the average results. And no correlation with where, which school any of those go to. That was before UTD was sending lots of people out into the workforce. I'm sure that would be different now, but this is, they couldn't find that correlation then. And almost no correlation, although there was a little bit of correlation with families. And I will kind of help if we have time. I'll try to come up with this in a moment, but very little. If there were very high socioeconomic families, there was a little correlation there. But what they found was the definitive element was how effectively their professional staff networked with one another. And not just, and there's a range of how one networks. What the really successful people did was build deep enough relationships and proffer something of value to others. So they built up what this report called chits. And so someone's working on some new process, some new concept. They are frustrated. They can't figure out what this is. And there's nothing in the reporting system to find an answer. They start calling the folks that they have bonded with around the company, and some who've left the company, for leads. And it's not just the casual, what they were getting was not just the casual, oh no, I'm not working on that. They're getting enough investment for someone to think, I think I heard that Shirley in the Sacramento office might have run into a similar problem on a project last year. I mean, in other words, there are people who were willing to really pause and reflect and make a difference. I would just observe for you that, for these 35 years in the workplace, there is enormous truth to what that study indicated. And the range of things it can mean to you are almost limitless. And I think also bear in mind in terms of where your relationship networks are, that this can apply in virtually every aspect of your lives, personal as well as professional, and also job opportunities. And candidly for your children as well. To use one quick example where I do think a little bit of correlation between socioeconomic family status relates. Among the absolute most brilliant networkers that I know, candidly, are CEOs of extremely large companies, and you sort of have to, be around them long enough, or but professionally and socially for me now. But I'll give you just a couple of examples in terms of opportunities for children. Very, very deserving, fabulous SATs, might even be able to be McDermott scholars. Not saying they're necessarily that great, but I have a good friend and CEO of a public company on the East Coast, whose daughter, for a host of reasons, desperately, partly because her boyfriend was going to go there, desperately wanted to go to law school at the University of Chicago. And so the for no reason other than I'm a close friend and a lawyer, so like a little brainstorming on this. And the immediately preceding dean of the law school was a classmate of ours at Stanford and a good friend. And so there was an opportunity for this little email dialogue to evolve where he became interested in this candidate. Now, probably should have gotten in anyhow, but it was a very nice safety net. And I have probably hundreds of similar examples. And you know, I think you'll find over time it will make a big difference. What I think the reason there's a little bit of socioeconomic correlation, but not very much, but a little bit of correlation to the 3M study was that young woman has now seen that it can be helpful to be a little bit outside the box, something done on an entirely personal basis, you know, not by linear rules. And what happens in the situation is the former dean just wanders down and says, hey, just want to take a look at. But, you know, probably the person he may have hired for that job is going to remember that he was just kind of curious to see how this application was going because of the relationship. And it's a particularly very successful business leaders at the highest ranks are just phenomenal at this, almost to a person. Of course, all of you are going to be, you know, professionals and business leaders of the highest rank and order, so I'm sure you'll know that as well. Last thing I will say, relating to this, particularly over the last 15 years or so, I have a lot of folks, a lot of friends send their friends to me when they're really unhappy about something in their careers. And it usually, the way these conversations always begin, and that some of these folks are, you know, have resumes that are almost worthy of yours. I mean, we're talking that quality of folk. They always begin with, you know, it's not that I don't like being in the finance division of whatever, but I'd really like if I also could do this. Or, you know, well, it's not that I haven't enjoyed being a lawyer, but, you know, aspects about my current position I'm just not crazy about are this. What I've learned over time is to listen respectfully for the first 15 to 20 minutes because there's, you know, no one's even prepared to really think about anything but this narrow path in the first 15 to 20 minutes. But then I always now ask, and this is just a personal quirk, so I'm not suggesting you use the same technique. I said that is, if you absolutely could do anything, I mean, if you could do anything at all, if you could imagine your ideal position, what would it be? The next line is always the same. Well, you know, that's impossible. I mean, it could never be what I really want. And then when it comes out, candidly, it almost always is possible. And there's usually only 2 phone calls away from that spot. So just remember that. And you'll be providing these opportunities to one another for decades to come. And again, congratulations. Thanks so much. And pun to heart's content, but always pun it.
Guys, with that, we're closing the annual meeting. It's been a pleasure serving you guys. I am always here personally, professionally, socially, whatever, to do anything I can for any of you at any point in time. And I will remain involved with the board, and please reach out. The association is only going to be as good as when we all contribute to it. So with that, please stick around, eat breakfast, let's talk for a while, and then good luck today.
We should thank Andres, too, since this is the last meeting.